Yes, I do remember this.
And then it's this. This is
Yeah.
the iconic part.
Yeah. Oh my God. Hey, I'm Zainab.
And I'm Mia.
And welcome to another episode of Sprinkles and Spice.
And as the great philosophers Aqua once said, imagination, that is your creation.
I love the little lag.
I had to really prepare the people.
Are you a blonde bimbo girl in a fantasy world?
For those
Is that what you're
listening,
saying?
I might be. They don't know. I might be.
Come on, Barbie, let's go party.
Yeah.
All right, so today's episode, we're going to be talking about creativity.
Ooh.
So today's topic is about creativity and how to hone in and embrace your creativity. And we have a very special guest to talk about it. He is a creative director. He is the founder of clothing line Farewell. And he is also an OG member of the Beehive. Fawaz Al-Shammari, welcome to the Pink Studio.
Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for that intro.
Yeah. The Beehive. Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. Thank you, Beyonce. Let's all thank Beyonce.
Let's start by thanking Beyonce.
But I thank her for a different reason. I mean, I'm an OG Hive, as I always say, and I'm ride or die since 99. So
Since 99?
Jesus
1999,
Christ.
yeah.
So since Destiny's Child.
Yeah, of course.
Before Beyonce was Beyonce.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, ride or die,
was she your
OG.
favorite?
She was at the time,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, she was also everyone's
I
favorite.
think she was. I was like,
Yeah, people liked Kelly. Other people liked Michelle when she came into the
her name's
picture.
Michelle. I always forget her name.
How dare you? She makes fun of her own self. You know,
Yeah.
Michelle,
You know what I love? I love the videos on YouTube of like the compilation of all the times Michelle falls or messes up.
Or when they're mean to her.
Oh, they're not mean to Michelle. They're never mean
Michelle.
to
They
Michelle.
always call her Michelle the Bridge, and then she kills it on bridges, like in
Yeah.
a song. That's her thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do you guys not remember the video of like Beyonce being like, "Oh well, you better go get your bag then"?
No, that wasn't
That was Michelle. That was,
their old
Fawcett. Yeah.
member.
Oh Jesus
Yeah.
Christ! Well, that shows
Speaking
how
of Jesus,
much
have you
I
heard
am.
Michelle's song, When Jesus Say Yes, Nobody
Who is it
Can Say
featuring?
No?
Who is it featuring?
Kelly and Beyonce.
Exactly. Of
Yeah.
course it was.
Well,
Yeah.
Beyonce and Kelly.
Ooh,
Have you not seen that?
no.
Yeah, it was so good because I think Michelle's in her Christian era.
But that was like a long time ago.
Yeah, that
though.
was like a few years ago.
She's now on Broadway, Michelle.
Everyone's had a Christian pop era. Jessica Simpson did.
Yeah,
like, a lot of
Trisha
oldies.
Paytas.
Did she have a Christian pop
I
era?
love you, Jesus. How do I know this? Why do I know this? Trisha Paytas, I'm obsessed with her. Have you seen the content that she's doing now?
Oh my God, she's so wholesome. I'm so
Have
happy
you
for
seen
her.
the Irish, like she acts like she's in an Irish pub or something like that?
No, this is not what I'm
And she
talking
puts on an Irish accent and it's so bad.
Wait, no,
Or her
what?
ASMR content. I'm a Trisha stan, just like through and through.
Irish.
just-
I'm talking about like the fact that she shows her family and she's all
yeah, she
cute
shows her
also.
family, but also she does that kind of content.
I need to watch
Yeah.
more Prisha.
All right. Fawaz, tell us a little bit about yourself as a creative. Why do you identify as a creative and what does being a creative mean to you?
That's an interesting question. So basically, I don't call myself creative director out of the blue. Like I became a creative director. If I'm going to take it from a career point of view, I've done so many things throughout my life. I've been a photographer at one point. I've hosted a radio show back in the day.
Really?
Yeah. Like
Radio as we're driving, like in the car.
Dana Toyerish, yeah. Like, yeah, no joke.
Ooh.
What on radio?
Name
like,
drop.
yeah.
Dana.
Shout
Shout
out to
out Dana.
Dana. I did a lot of event planning. I did a lot of like PR, and over the years, and I've honed in a lot of things that I liked as a child and as I was growing up, until eventually, and I call myself now a creative director.
Yeah.
Like, and that's it. I've been in marketing, social media for like, I've been with the rise of social media,
Yeah.
and I've had the opportunity to see how it's an effective tool to work and deliver your creativity. And you can see it now on TikTok and on Instagram, and all these creators like creating all of these visuals using these
Yeah.
platforms.
So what does a creative mean to you as someone who's been in the game for so many years?
So basically, I think creative is subjective, like art. So you can be creative in any industry and even like in your daily routine. Like if you take a shortcut, you're creative because you found a way to take that shortcut and like avoid traffic. What I did earlier today. And then basically, shout out to Google Maps. And then, like creativity, I don't think you can define it. It just depends on what industry we're talking about. You can be creative in architecture, you can be creative in design, you can be creative in like photography, you can be creative in literally everything. It just depends on what you think creativity is.
Like you said, everybody has the ability to be creative. You can be creative in different ways, but it's not enough to just be creative to be in the creative field. Like a lot of people have this misconception that, oh, I'm a creative person, so I should go into the creative
because
industry.
I know how to like put two colors together
Exactly.
or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. But there is a lot of skills that you need to develop or hone in on, and a lot of education or experience that you need to get for you to excel in the creative field. How do you feel like it is defined in Kuwait as compared to like the global market?
So like I said, and it does take, I was lucky enough to do a lot of things in order for me to get to where I am today in the creative field. Creative director, as a term, I think it's relatively new, and the understanding internationally, it's new, more or less. It's always been existed within like the fashion realms or the fashion industry and other certain places that are very niche. But now creative director is like an investment. It's something everyone needs. Everyone needs a creative director, especially if you're building a brand. Regardless of clothing, food, whatever your brand is, you need a creative director, which is a completely separate thing than a marketing director or a PR manager or whatever it is. The creative director cares about the cohesiveness of the whole brand. So because it's a new term, I don't think there's that understanding of it. People associate creativity with freelancers, which because a lot of freelancers are creative, and I get it. But that's the issue. I don't think people are starting to realize now the importance of a creative director in your organization. If we're going to talk about it in that way.
When you say like people think creatives are freelancers, what did you mean by that exactly?
And a lot of people who are freelancers are creatives.
Yeah.
So they're not taking seriously, because as a freelancer, when the word says free in it, like it has the word has the word free in it, so that off the bat, like, you know. And second of all, not all, obviously I don't like to generalize, but from the concept of the word freelancer, people assume that, okay, so you don't work for a legit company or somewhere else. Okay then.
Yeah. A lot of times I know that people struggle, like freelancers especially struggle, I think, in the region, because companies don't want to work with an individual alone. Like, so they even start to refer to themselves as like, we're a team. No. Like they try to create this impression that they have a team behind them just so that they can get a job or the gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they have this understanding that the company, if they see that you're an individual, they don't see the value necessarily of your work. Not all companies, but a lot of companies that I think lack the understanding of the creative field and what it entails. They're going to be like, oh, you're an individual, what can you do? I could probably go to an agency and they'll give me better work than you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so for the purpose of this episode, we are just going to clarify that when we're talking about creative, we're speaking about specifically media. We're not going to get into arts or design or
social media and stuff like that. Yeah.
So we're sticking to more of like a contained medium.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, interestingly enough, right? So Kuwait being relatively, I would argue, like, new in terms of like it has all these new brands, like it's Kuwait to me, when I look at the landscape of companies, like they're all very new, they're very fresh, and they're very big, and there's a lot of money behind them, right? So I think when something is new and even if it has all this money behind it, a lot of times like the team is new. The people doing everything don't really yet have the understanding of what everything is. And from my experience looking from the outside in, it seems to me that a lot of things fall into marketing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Fawaz.
Yeah, that we actually had that conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of people confuse marketers for creatives.
Or content creation, like social media. Like a lot of people chunk like content creation,
social media
strategy,
management,
social media management,
analysis, all these things.
Videography, photography, whatever. All of that is chunked into marketing.
Yeah. So how can we sort of tell these corporations that have the funding to have separate people for separate roles, like, no, these roles are different? Like, how can we teach them? And how can those creative directors and creatives in general sort of separate themselves from just whatever role they could be lumped in.
See, even when it comes to corporations, I think at the end of the day, we're all people. And everyone's just doing the best that they can. It just takes one person to realize the value of what a creative director does, and they would make it like a requirement for their company, maybe. You know what I mean? Just one person. But when it comes to the idea of creative director and or creativity, or if you're a freelancer or whatever term you give yourself, I think it's very important to find the value in yourself, the proper value. It doesn't mean that you charge way too much or charge way too little, or you just charge what feels right to you. So if I feel like this project, I can charge X amount and that feels right to me, and it's not the standard, it's less than the standard, it's fine. I don't have to follow what the standard is. You don't need to keep a standard. Second of all, by knowing your value, if I give you an offer and someone says, oh, I'm sorry, it's too expensive, go find less. I'm sorry. And this is when I give you an offer, or if a creative gives you an offer, you're not just paying for that specific project. You're also, there's a lot of hard work that's been, if you hire someone that you think can actually create what you want to create, there's a lot of hard work, so many years that were put into this. When they're charging you something and then you think it's a bit too much or out of budget, it's fine. No hard feelings. But like, I always tell people to charge people, or when it comes to raising awareness about creativity, just do what feels right. There's no right and wrong. There is no guideline like to anything. Like we always get hung up in, but I shouldn't, but they should, and we should do this. And it's not that clear. You do what feels right, even if it's not the standard.
I also feel like, to answer your question, I don't think this is something that we can change overnight. I think it's going to take a long time for us to sort of figure it out, because like you said, like for example, creative director is a more recent term, and we're
a bit
still
ambiguous. Like you don't really know what does a creative director really do.
I know you have like kids these days just graduated college and they're like, I'm a creative director. I'm like, back in my day, 1900s, in the 1900s. Anyways, but basically, like, I remember that like creative director to me was like someone who's a high, like upper management, like a high level.
And in fashion mainly.
In fashion also. But like, if you're a fresh grad calling yourself a creative director, like, no, that's not how it is. Like there's sort of like steps and things and skills that you need to have for you to call yourself a creative director. But at the same time, I do believe that it's on creatives just as much as it is on corporations. So for corporations, I think like, or even like small businesses, I think they need to understand what they want from the creative, why they're choosing this specific creative, because is it that their style fits the content that you want, or the work that you want done? Don't just like, like look for creatives based on their price or whether they can do this or not. Like, oh, it's a videographer, photographer, content creator, whatever. Like, oh, let's just hire them and then give them hell because you're not agreeing on the same style or whatever. And then I think it's also on creatives to
stand their ground.
Stand their ground, yes, but at the same time also
deliver what you promised.
Deliver,
and above,
and don't overpromise. We have this issue where people, because they're afraid of not getting a gig, they're like, oh, let me just promise the sun and the moon, and then
it happens sometimes, 100%.
And then the client gets frustrated because of their
disappointed. And but you said this and you said that, and I get
and then what happens? They're like, oh, we're never going to work with freelancers
but that's
again.
Why I go back to we're all people. Like at the end of the day, we're all people.
Yeah.
And creatives especially, sometimes, that quote where creatives sometimes need to sit and do nothing. Like, I totally get that. Sometimes it's, in order for me to give you something extraordinary, I just need time. And I just don't know when it happens. Sometimes it just like happens, it clicks. And it starts with a name, or like for me, my process is, and I've mainly worked in the F&B and like clothing industry mainly, but I can brand anything and sell anything. That's my thing. Like, shout out to Beyonce, because that's what we learned.
Every time he mentions Beyonce,
Fawaz references Beyonce in everything that he does.
She knows.
Fawaz finds reasons to respond to my story and incorporate Beyonce. I mean, this has nothing to do with Beyonce.
It's a talent and a skill. And let me tell you, like, okay, let's take a moment. I need to talk about Beyonce just so that I'm clear. I'm serious. So like a lot of things that I do are inspired by Beyonce. And like, when I say inspired by Beyonce, I'm saying Beyonce inspires me. I'm not saying that I'm copying Beyonce.
Yeah.
No, it's like when I see the amount of work, and I see the amount of work, right? Like I've been there since 1999, so I've been there for the whole ride, and I've seen every single project. When I see the amount of layers and like intention and like hard work and like so much put into a project where like everything makes sense and everything is cohesive, for me, that inspires me. So when I go about my day, when I go around working with a client or working on a project, I like to do that. I like to build layers and like thread things together. You know what I mean? We've talked about this all the time. And I always like, it's just when Beyonce releases a new project, I'm excited. Not only because it's like new music and all of that. No, that's one side. The entertainment side is one side. The education side.
She also has a lot of Easter eggs. She
So
loves
many
doing like
Easter
little
eggs, which
Easter
I love.
eggs.
I love foreshadowing is my favorite thing. Like a Beyonce foreshadow, yeah, because you never know. Like people are in shambles. Like since the Super Bowl performance, they're in shambles, like trying to find out what is she gonna release on the 14th and theories and so on. So for me, what excites me when it comes to Beyonce and why I keep referencing and bringing up Beyonce is not that it's just what she does, and not that I'm entertained. I'm also educated. I'm educated a lot of things. Every single project she's done has always had a lot of details and a lot of intentions, whether you're talking about Homecoming or you're talking about Black is King or you're talking about Lemonade, or there's so much intention. Like every album, every outfit, color, all of these things have so much power. And I love being inspired by this and like applying it into what I do.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy that. I enjoy storytelling as much as the next person, you know?
And
I enjoy telling it in different ways, you know?
Yeah. I think what she does beautifully is that she tells the story of her culture.
Oh, yeah.
She really does.
Yeah.
Like
for the culture.
For the culture, you know what I mean?
Beyonce's favorite thing, the culture. Shout out the culture.
Beyonce's favorite thing is the culture. Shout out the culture. No, but it inspires you to do the same for your own
culture.
Like her, and I think Issa Rae does the same thing. Like I really love when I see people doing things for their culture, and I love when we see like creatives here locally who do the same thing, where they you know are
like
they love
that happened. I said
with
like
Sedu. I think also shout out Menayer, a friend of the pod. Now she's kind of like become the face of like traditional Kuwaiti dancing, like Samri and stuff like that. And she kind of like, she's proud of her heritage, but she's also more of a modern woman. So she kind of tries to tell our story through her art and her performances as well.
And I love that. I love it inspires you to be proud of everything that you do, and it inspires you to be proud of where you've come from and how far you've come and where you're going, you know? It just reminds you. So that's why I enjoy like a big aspect of that is the education. That's for me entertainment. That's for me, I can give a 40-minute presentation with no preparation about Beyonce now. Like, let's go now.
He's trying, guys. Pause, hold up, pause. He has literally told us that he wants to have a Beyonce episode where he's going to speak and we're going to just laugh. Did you hear that? He's like, he can be that laughing ad libs. So maybe we'll grant that wish. If this video gets a million views.
The years that I've been friends with Fawaz, the things that I've learned about Beyonce, like I could probably write a thesis on it.
Then it's always like threading things, you know? It's not like the obvious. It's just like, I think this and this and that, you know?
No, but honestly, like, I do appreciate that. Like, honestly, like, I didn't look at Beyonce as like, you know, a creative or an artist that way. Like I just used to enjoy her music until Fawaz would like tell me these little, you know, like
nuggets,
what do you call it? Little nuggets.
But see, that's what brings me back. That for me is like an exercise on creativity. So when I'm Khali Beyonce, the fact that I'm being exposed to this new kind of genre or like culture or dance move or whatever it is that she's releasing, for me, I'm just training my brain to put things together, you know, like thread things together. And that's what I enjoy doing in my work. So it's me training myself that, okay, the logo could be connected to a word in a song, you know, and we can create this and we can create that. But
see, and that's where I think the disconnect happens between big corporations and creatives, like they lack the scope of understanding of what a creative can do. Like ultimately they can just like, oh, it's just a logo. But the creative will have thought of the story behind the logo and what emotions it'll evoke and all these things. So I think this is where like it's important to have creatives vocalize their talents and vocalize why not just anyone can be creative, because it is about storytelling and relaying a message and making someone feel emotions or feel some sort of thing. And I think we have corporations in Kuwait who've done that unbelievably well. Like I think recently we went to Red Town. BBT's done an amazing job with that.
Yeah.
The creativity they have, like I know it's just F&B, but like I've never seen anywhere in the world, and I'm sure you feel the same way, someone push the envelope so hard on what they could do. When I think of BBT, I don't just think of like fast food. I don't.
Yeah. No, BBT have always, I think, have always been creative. Like even with every single branch that they open, there's a different concept. Like for example, the Shamia branch, it's part of one of the parks in Shamia. So during the winter time, they do this thing where they give you a blanket and lawn chairs and whatever, and you can order your food and have a picnic at the park. And then they have their hilltop. Is it the one in Bildina, that has a slide?
Yeah.
And they're just so creative with every single branch, but it's always on brand. Even with their social media. Do you remember with their social media where they would just do like memes?
Yeah.
It was
when
fun.
They first started off, yeah.
When they first started off.
It was different, Lena. What's so cool about it is that you go into a social media account for a restaurant and you end up watching memes, and that like grabs your attention. Like it cuts through the chaos, right? Because there's a lot of noise in the market.
But it kind of set their brand tone as well.
It's a multi-layered tactic.
Yeah.
That's the thing when it comes to creatives. Sometimes I might do something, maybe it's thought out, but it's not. يعني باكر يطلع another bonus later on. You know what I mean? باكر يطلع إنه actually when we did this, it not only differentiated us from like the noise in the market, but it also added, like. Sometimes when you do when in the creative field, when you do something and with an intention, I always like to start with an intention. So what's my intention? My intention is to make the icon memorable. So how do we do that? And then like I come up with a plan. And sometimes it's something you feel. You can't really like plan it. Yes, okay, there's a outline. We'll plan what we can, but when push comes to shove, things change.
Yeah.
And that's the thing when being a creative, when that happens, you don't just shut down. You need to go with the flow.
Yeah.
And you brought up a point, actually, Mia. You were talking about emotions and they're supposed to make you feel. I think the root of creativity is emotions. And I've been in situations where I was told more than once, and you're emotional. And I used to feel like bad about it. And why am I so emotional? Because they would focus on the negative parts. And then a few years ago, it hit me. I realized, yeah, I am emotional, and that's why I'm great. That's why I'm great at what I do, because I feel emotions, the good and the bad. I know how to translate them. I know how to deliver them. Let's say if a brand wants to deliver a feeling of fun, I can do it in a creative way. Where I can come up with different ways because I'm emotional. For the longest time, it was like, emotions had a bad rap, and you're such an emotional person. Oh, you guys are emotional, and like, yeah, but that's a good thing.
Yeah,
like it's all about perspective, and I'm sure you guys.
I get that a lot. I used to get called like, oh, you're so emotional, But I like what you said. Like, I think a big part of being a creative is being able to translate your emotions into art, into content, into something that people can digest and understand
and
what you're trying to evoke, that feeling.
Exactly,
and relate to. But I also want to go back to your point, what you were saying earlier. I do feel like a lot of the times people do not understand the value of what we have to offer in this field. Like, for example, like, because they don't have that understanding of what goes behind a brand or what it takes to build a prominent brand that is gonna last and resonate for years with the audience, and not just something that's, wishy-washy that keeps changing. Like, that requires someone who has experience, who has the skill, not just someone who's creative and create like a trendy video that goes viral and then you think that person knows everything.
Because it's a trend, and as much as I love hopping on trends, I think it's a great thing for exposure. But even when I hop on a trend for a brand that I'm working with, I like to make sure that it's also on brand.
Yeah.
You know?
Whenever I work with a client and they're like, oh, we want to be trendy, but I'm like, sure, but not all trends are going to apply to your brand.
Exactly.
You cannot jump on every single trend
Exactly.
because then you're just going to look desperate.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm a cool mom, you know, like
I'm not a regular mom.
I'm
yeah.
a cool mom and they're trying so hard. But I think it all just comes down to emotions. And when you are good at handling your emotions creatively, you're easily relatable. So people can feel it, your authentic self.
Yeah.
They can feel it. People feel everything, by the way, regardless. So like for me, I feel like it's such an important step to actually feel your emotions in anything in life, actually, not just in the creative field. Like actually sit down and feel and ask questions. If I'm working with a client, why do they want to deliver that feeling? Or why do we want to do this? What's the purpose? What is the purpose? What is the vision?
But that's a problem a lot of the times. And that's what I've learned as a creative is to try to ask questions to guide the client into figuring out what they want. But a lot of times that's the hassle and that's what takes most of the time because they don't know what they want. They're like, I just want video yadrab. Abby, like, give me like something I want followers. And we're like, okay, like, but where is your marketing? Can we sit with your marketing team and figure out what your brand is or what your message is or whatever? And they don't have any of that. So now as a creative, you're hired, for example, to create content. Now your work it's tripled, not just doubled, because you have to kind of sort of do the marketing and
create the brand voice.
And obviously not everyone's able to do that, but we can do that because we have that experience and that background.
Yeah.
So it's really tough to maneuver, but like you said, like you have to control your emotions and go with the flow.
Exactly.
In a way. So you have to
even at the time, like when I have a project on, and I don't know if you relate because I think you do. Like when I'm excited about something, طبعا I pause because I remember something. When I'm excited about something, I feel like I'm 16. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like I'm excited.
You get giddy.
I get giddy, and I'm like my eyes are sparkling, and I'm like yes, and I can see this, and usually it's tied to a sound or something. Like if I see something, there's always an emotion connected to it. That's also probably a Beyonce quote. And then, but like there's always an emotion connected to something, and then that like starts snowballing, and then it gets bigger, and then it's bigger and bigger, and it makes sense to me. So. Like when it comes to, like Zayn was just saying, some people want you to do like content creation, right? Okay, we're doing content creation. A lot of people can take beautiful photos. زين عادي ماكو مشكلة. But sometimes it's the terms that you use in the caption that make it resonate, even though sometimes people don't read captions, or it's the angle that you take the photo of, you know, or it's the colors that you keep showing in these. And this content.
It's always
it could be like,
and it's a mix of all of these things as well, because people think a brand is just a logo. No, I don't want to sound like one of those Instagram, slides, like a carousel. But like a brand is not like your logo or pattern or your name or all of these things. It's how people feel when they think about you. Like I think about a certain brand, like, oh yeah, I'm excited for it. Or oh no, like there's good branding and there's bad branding. It's sure, yes, logo, pattern, things play a role in order to be memorable. But these things are, it's always, you can't control this. You cannot control. You can be as creative as you can, but this goes back to the person, how they think about you.
It could be as simple as even a small detail of like the hand of the model. Like, you want to evoke, you want to get a certain target audience.
Yeah.
The hand is a man or it's a woman. It's someone with a manicure, with long nails, certain accessories. There's so many things that go into like the details of every single thing that we see. And I think that's what ultimately these brands forget, is that every single thing is sometimes thought for,
Every single thing plays a role. Even the way the bag is delivered to you. Is it stapled? Does it have a sticker on? Are the stickers easy to remove? All of these, it's tiny small details that I like paying attention to details. I love small details, and I know small details just make or break it, like in the long run, you know what I mean?
Recently, Zainab and I had discussion where we would order from this restaurant and they changed the packaging. And we had a whole phone call about it. I talked to everyone about it. But it's crazy how like something as small as
changing. Did they change to the better or the worse?
No, worse. They cheapened out.
Yeah.
and it affected the quality. It affected so many things, and we talked about it.
And we love this restaurant.
Yeah.
It's like our go-to.
Yeah.
And they were like, ugh, I hate that they changed their boxes
Tell
or their
them.
packaging.
But they changed it back to a thicker
They
package.
did, yeah, I noticed.
I was like, oh, enough people must have said this is horrible because
Yeah.
it changes the integrity of how you
It
receive the
changes the
product.
experience.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like the same experience
Yeah.
anymore.
Especially
And
if
it's
it's food
crazy.
delivery.
The sound. I
Yeah.
love the sound of that box.
Yeah. And then now, and then when they changed it, before they changed it back, it was like flimsy. And I'm like, and we've been eating from this restaurant for years.
years.
Like it's one from our childhood. And now you're like, oh, this is not the same experience anymore. And so when I found out they changed it back, or they kind of modified it to make it similar to the old one, I was like, oh, okay. You know, it feels like that experience
And
again.
that's the brand. That's how you felt towards it as a brand. And we feel the same way. Every single decision we make, in my opinion, is based on how we feel towards the brand. The coffee that you drink, where you drink it, you know, how it makes you feel, the interior, the logo, the location, the convenience, all of these things play a role. All of these things play a role in creating a brand. And I know we're talking about mainly about like food and beverage, probably, like
Not
in these examples.
necessarily.
But like even when it comes to clothing and all these things, the small details make your brand.
Well, I mean, Alabu clothing, you know, you said earlier, creative directors are usually known in fashion, right? So I think now the term has exploded, and now we can look at brands like Louis Vuitton, who brought Pharrell as their creative director, and he blends art, he blends the culture, he blends music, he blends streetwear into a brand that is traditionally high fashion. I mean, we've seen Louis Vuitton collaborate with Supreme. These are things that, because it's a French like heritage brand, these are things you couldn't dream of them collaborating with a skateboarding brand like Supreme. You know, that's very street forward. So it's like you see these things and you're like, wait, what? That's all from a creative director. It's the same with Bottega Veneta. Literally, you see a specific grain, it's become the Bottega grain.
Exactly.
Like that's Matthew
That's
Blasey.
my favorite thing is working with color. Like, and when you know how like the Barbie rollout, the movie?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
pink.
Like that was a rollout. Everything was pink. Hatta they had this billboard where it's like, it's just the pink Pantone. There was a Pantone color, like Barbie. That's power, you know?
Yeah.
Like show me your brand. I love this part. Like, but obviously you need to establish your brand. It's been there for a while. People have
An idea.
of what your brand is, and you know what people think of your brand. Then I could be targeting certain segment, but then I've literally, like when I actually execute, I'm getting another segment. So I just embrace them, but I create. After that, I believe brands should do things that are fun and different. Like, yeah, show me a basketball, you know, that has your logo on it. You remember it more, like it becomes top of mind. I love creating a brand that's top of mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like fun. That's why like brands like Chanel and stuff have like tennis rackets and surfboards, and I don't know.
And
I've seen
they've
stuff.
been doing that for years, which is why it's kind of cool to see Matthew Blasey move to Chanel. So like, I think there's like a general sentiment in the fashion industry where everyone's like, what's he gonna do there? And that's the thing, is like, it's ultimately it's storytelling, it's invoking emotion, it's this emotional attachment. Like it's the same with Loewe. I mean, we make jokes all the time. We'll take a fruit and I'm like, this fruit is so Loewe. You know, how are we thinking of a brand for fruit?
Exactly.
That's an immense amount of power. And I think it'll be exciting to see more corporations catch up with that understanding of the value of a creative and a creative director and all the roles that a creative can do, you know?
Yeah. And a lot of times I think we have another problem where it's like companies would hire one creative and expect that one creative to do the job of
like four.
three departments and maybe 10 people.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, you're not doing it hard enough, or you're not trying hard enough, you're not doing it good enough, whatever. And it's like, this is one person that you're expecting to figure out your brand identity, voice, values, whatever. And then on top of that, do your marketing strategy, your content strategy, film your content, probably be there with the creatives while they're or
Directing the content.
directing the content, editing the content, and then posting and coming up with captions. This is an entire
And then interacting
team.
with,
And interacting.
engaging with your
This is-
followers
this is
within
unrealistic.
brand, with the
And
Rebel
then-
brand. Yeah.
And then honestly, like lowballing them with their salaries or whatever. I know a lot of people who work at agencies and they struggle with this because even I think, you know, no shade towards agencies, but I think some agencies, yes, while they are doing great work, and they have a good understanding of what an agency should do. But a lot of agencies, I think they fall into this like cycle of just creating generic content, and they burn out their employees. A lot of employees who work in agencies are just burnt out.
It makes sense, yeah.
So I think we need to educate the market a little more about like how many people it takes for you to do this. And I think as a freelancer, I've experienced this too, where it's like, "إيش دعوة يعني كلها فيديو إيش دعوة كلها it's this," but I'm like, you do not understand the work
that goes into
and
a
the thought
10-second
process
video
and everything that goes into that. And even like a small revision, like sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, change this." I'm like,
the lighting
like to
is
you,
all,
you think it's small, but it could change a flow of video. It could change the message of a video. But that's the thing, like that people minimize what the value of creatives' work, and they think, oh, like I can do it too. What shabila? Like it doesn't require much. Like, you know what I mean?
But I also think the effect of that is that it shows, right? So we have the standout brands, and especially in Kuwait, like we mentioned BBC earlier, we have other brands that
pick
the color purple. First of all, I think of pick.
Yeah. And their captions. Nobody.
We talked about this. And I always talk about this as an example. Like, you know, if you're like different points I'm making, by the way.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're walking in the mall, 360, let's say, if you pass by a mall, anywhere, if you're driving around Kuwait, if you pass by a pick, you always know it's a pick, even if you're not looking directly at pick. You know, because the color purple.
Yeah.
Not the movie though.
Not just
the color purple.
Not just
like,
the color purple. Notice how they incorporate a lot of plants, wood, natural. Like, so and throughout the years, I think they've tweaked their brand a little more. Even their branches, like you can see the changes they go through. And that's what I really like about Pick, because right from the start, what they did, even it goes down to the products that they offer. They start with one thing, they perfect it, move on to the other. They start with that, perfect it, move on to the other. And then they just started growing.
They put their own twist on it. Like we were saying earlier, don't do trends unless it's on brand.
Yeah.
But I know we talked about their verbal identity.
Their verbal identity is
amazing.
Genius.
يعني لا ما شاء الله Pick, shout out to Pick صراحة and the guys, لأن the verbal identity من أول يوم, من the first time, like this we're talking I think 2013 or 12 back in the day, or 11 even. من بلش Pick, they've always had that tone that speaks to everyone. Like it's relatable.
Very
to local Kuwaiti. يعني perfect. I got one of my friends smack down in the middle. Like it's perfect. They always talk in a certain way and they use certain terms and they always have the same direction. It always feels homey and cozy and
it feels
relatable.
Like they're your best friend.
Exactly.
It feels like they're your best friend. And one thing that they did that I really loved, so I think they had was it a smoothie where they used Oreo Oreo cookies, I think, in the smoothie.
Yeah.
And then
last year,
people told them like, this is a boycotted brand. How are you guys using it? No. They released a video. I think they had screen recorded all the comments, and then they said something where it's like
they explained to you.
They were like, not everyone's perfect. We made a mistake, and to rectify this mistake, we are using an alternative for Oreos. And everybody was like mad respect, like the way that they salvaged that situation. It's like, oh, it's your best friend who made a mistake, and she
owned up to it.
She's owning up to it.
And basically, what they've done, what I believe they've done, they've created the new standard for Kuwaiti verbal identities on social media and Instagram. يعني, you can see a lot of brands talking in the same way or typing in the same way, you know. Sometimes it's not on brand for them. Like not any. It could be like I don't know, another restaurant, you know, and we talk in that same way. Okay, great, but that's a big thing. When it comes off from someone else, comes off as condescending. I don't know. Yeah.
I think that's where the value lies. So with these examples of like big corporations who successfully built a brand identity and successfully clearly have like a vision and probably have a really good creative team, they've sort of bridged that gap between the consumer and the brand. Like they've created that dialogue. So I think like it'll be interesting in the future to see how big corporations, especially in Kuwait, understand the value of the creative, especially when it comes to the clientele, you know, like the creative's role is going to be to invoke that emotion, as you said. It's going to be ala good as well, like understanding who their clientele is, what they want, like working with them rather than being like, oh, I'm giving you exposure and then lowballing them. Like you give the creative his flowers and your garden will bloom.
Yeah.
Already the creative is like a creative, they're going in their emotions, you know what I mean? They're already going through a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But I always like, if I was to send a message, I would always say to creatives, like embrace your vulnerability. You know what I mean? And that's what makes you authentic.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm good enough. What if they don't like it? What if madri ish? Okay, so what? It's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? A lot of people make it into like, it's like, oh, what if I lose this client? So
And
what?
that's why I think a lot of people think creatives are difficult to work with, but because like you said, like creatives are emotional and that's what makes them
Special.
great. That's what
And
makes them
being
special.
vulnerable is a strength, not a weakness.
Yeah.
So like, and
that's
I'm
what-
afraid that I'm not going to be good enough. It's fine.
Yeah. That's why I think, Yani, I worked as a producer a lot of times, and I've learned to sort of like cater to creatives and speak to creatives. And you have to have a lot of patience in order for you to get great work out of them. Because if you rush a creative, I mean, sometimes, they have an issue with some creatives have issues with meeting deadlines, because I get it. Sometimes you get that creative block and you think because, you
need to get into the flow, that creative flow, and it takes a while. It's not
so
like...
you have to be patient when dealing with creatives,
100%.
and you have to know how to motivate them and push them and give them enough to work with.
But it takes a creative to know a creative. Do you know what I mean? How to handle a creative.
100%. That's why there's that gap still.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times someone that's good with numbers, not to stereotype, but like, and business, all that, doesn't understand how a creative mind works and that it's not linear. Creativity is not linear.
And sometimes you have someone who's creative but also good with numbers and good with a lot of these
And like
technical
I said
skills.
earlier, creativity is not limited to one person or what kind, or they're just like I'm in art or design or not. Everyone is creative. Literally, everyone is creative.
I think some people
Just find your creativity.
Yeah, I think
find
some
your-
people have it more naturally, maybe. But a lot of people like don't understand that creativity is something that you can grow and build and hone in on. You know what I mean?
It doesn't start. You're not born with it. It's not like something that, oh, I'm creative. No, it takes time. So you know what you like. And then you know how to process these things. And then how can I, like for me, I don't want to talk about like how I do it is I like connecting the threads, which brings us back to Beyonce. But like
We can't end an episode
but
without
I like
Beyonce.
connecting threads. I like creating layers. I like creating I like creating depth. I like building on something. So you have that's your logo. Great. What's the story here? What did we do? Like I've done this before when I worked on so many projects. But I like that idea of pulling things and making it all work and just creating it for this brand and being all about it, you know?
No, one thing I always said about Fawaz, I used to call him a vibe genius.
Yeah.
Because he does create a vibe. Like he'll take a brand and he will utilize every single thing about this brand that he can to just
make it stronger,
make it so strong and like create a solid identity for this brand. And there are things that like I never thought of that you would be like, oh, you know, like you said, like connecting the threads. So you I think you've really done a great job with a lot of brands. I mean, over the years, being friends with you and seeing you work, I know that whenever you're behind a brand, like I feel like you embody it first of all.
Much,
and then you really make it stronger. You really create like you take certain elements and then you push them so that they become front of mind to the consumer that a lot of people don't think about.
I don't work, alhamdulillah, now. I feel, first of all, I really want to say now, I feel like so lucky and humbled that we live in a time where your full-time job could be anything creative. You know what I mean? You've had a lot of cool guests. Msaad Al-Mtairi, he's a full-time stylist, right? Consultant, image consultant. You have Farah Bshara, she's a full-time, DJ and music therapist. Like we are, I think we're like experiencing an era where our idea of what a job is not the same as our parents' generation, you know, of like a desk job or anything.
We have so many golden opportunities. I think I am really excited for the future to see like this future generation of creatives. Like shout out a lot of them who are friends of the pod.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see what they do and what they bring to the table, because it really is exciting. Like you have girls that are now like delving into directing, which growing up most of the directors we watched were men. We have people
Shout
creating
out
Fadda, yeah.
the Pisces, was it?
Fadda the Pisces, yeah.
Fadda the Pisces. She actually had her movie premiere a couple of weeks ago, which unfortunately we missed.
But Tariq was there. Sprinkles of size representation, but also like we have the girlies from Claudette, like who's blew up. I see some of my friends in the US being like, oh, what's Claudette? That's so cool. We have so many cool things happening in the country, and I think it'll be exciting. And I hope that the bigger corporations honestly like catch up and learn to sort of value the creatives.
I just thought of another brand.
Yes.
Might be unexpected.
Yes.
Hey.
But one brand that has, I think, had global recognition is actually Oxygen Gym.
Oh, yeah.
لحظة. I think this is a great moment عشان شباب أكسجين يعرفون السالفة الصج. إنزين. I go to Oxygen. I love Oxygen. Oxygen. The standard is international. It's insane. ما شاء الله. It's a very, very strong brand. The buildings, the finishing, the kind of machines they use, the coaches they have there. Do you know, and actually, like I've been working out there for 5-6 years now. It's never dirty. Like there are people, their only job is to clean the machines. Like they're all just like walking around, they're cleaning up machines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's top notch. Aslan, one of my friends told me a funny story. He was in Muscle Beach, I think in LA or something. And يقول كان لابس t-shirt Oxygen. And like the guys there were like begging him, please, عطنا t-shirt, please. They're like, he's like, it's in why? He's like, انت من الكويت انت قدرت تحصله, but we can't. We can't. It's a big, mashallah, it's a great brand.
Imagine like in America, like they ask their Kuwaiti friends, like, or if they see someone wearing an Oxygen shirt, they're like, oh, can you get us a shirt? Or where did you get that shirt? Like its reputation has gone all the way up to like, the US.
Crazy. You know, I'm trying to join a gym. Maybe I might join Oxygen.
They still don't have the female.
They don't?
They're opening soon, and it's gonna it will be game changing. I can tell you, من الحين it's gonna be game changing, and I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
And I know nothing about it.
Maybe we should join Oxygen.
لا والله العظيم. Seriously, Oxygen, one of the strongest Kuwaiti brands. I think it was founded in 2004 or 5, for about 20 years. Mashallah. It's crazy.
I think there's a reason why a lot of guys go to Oxygen, and a lot of men assume that we were making fun of Oxygen. Guys, we weren't making fun of Oxygen.
Yeah, we're making fun of gym bros, guys. Like, it's not that deep.
Yeah. But then I get the association, but the people who work out there, like the bodybuilding champions اللي هناك that they take part in.
Yeah.
Oh, bodybuilding champions and they take part there. It's the whole place, mashallah, يعني it's a brand, يعني, and they realize the power of the brand. And I noticed their vending machines, they're branded. You know, their
they have
food is branded.
Food,
their food is like, you guys probably don't know this, but it's like they have a brownie that everyone loves. I've never met anyone يقول لي والله البراوني مع Oxygen مو حلو.
I've actually had a friend tell me that she would ask her guy friends to go get her the brownie from Oxygen because it's so good.
Oh,
literally,
okay.
يعني like ليش أقول لك they see the power of branding. They did like this. Their brownie used to be wrapped in cellophane. Now it's in a box and branded and everything. Oxygen is one of the strongest Kuwaiti brands. Bravo. يعني صدق. Internationally speaking, and now they opened in Saudi and they opened in Emirat, so they're also expanding, which is great.
I know, like one thing that I'm really proud of Kuwaiti creatives is that like we really, I think, are trailblazers in the region when it comes to our concepts, our brands, our restaurants, our like whatever it is, our fashion. We really have a lot of creatives in Kuwait, but I feel like while there are initiatives to empower and invest in these creatives, I feel like there is a lot of opportunities and areas of improvement that we can also work on. But I am hopeful. I also do want to shout out Kilmetain. They are giving a platform for creatives to talk about these 100%. Things. So it's really nice to be living in this age where we can see this appreciation for creatives. It just means that we need a few tweaks here and there to just kind of,
it really is because of the internet. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine, like, if there was no internet?
No,
You know
I
what I
could
mean?
not actually.
Hey.
I personally am a TikTok
Like, because
doctor.
we've been through the
so I
dial-up
could not.
era, so like we know what's up, you know.
Yeah.
But like now we
Leah,
have
you've
more
never
access.
experienced the dial-up era like as a teenager, have you?
Dial up what?
Internet.
Must be nice.
I know.
Must be so nice
Lava,
to
lava.
not wait a week to download.
Wait, a
A
week?
song of
To download-
LimeWire
yeah,
or
yeah.
Napster
No.
illegally.
Yeah, when we download episodes like shows, we'd have to wait like for days to download. Yeah.
Lava, you don't know the dial-up sound?
No,
Lava,
I do know that. I do.
YouTube to us was like we were like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, because now we could see music videos instead of recording them off of MTV and
like
replay.
or like buying them off a CD, a VCD. By the way.
No, I remember one thing. If to get on the internet, if the phone rang at the same time, there was like a problem. And I remember the sound of the internet as it was loading a little bit.
Like,
Yeah.
it's this sound.
Yes, I do remember this.
And then it's this. This is
Yeah.
the iconic part.
Yeah. Oh my God. And then MSN.
Vaguely. Guys, listen, pause. I was a baby, so vaguely, but it rings a bell. I don't remember it being this loud. And I remember the one thing that would annoy me.
It was that loud.
If my mom was on the phone and I was on the internet, it was slow. Things would happen.
My
Slow
parents,
down,
thank
they would
God.
cut off.
Shout out my parents. We had two lines, one for the internet, one for the house.
Shout out the Yaqub household. Eat it.
Eat it, indeed. No, but we had one computer that we would all fight over, so we had to have like designated like time slots for each one of us to use the computer.
Same. And then when you live in like with siblings close
Yeah.
to each other's
I'm
age,
so
yeah.
glad I was born to be an only child. Sharing internet? Sharing a computer? Me? Sure? No.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, Fawaz, do you have one last message that you want to say to the world?
Do you have a Beyonce lyric to sing?
So I think your emotions are a creative fuel, and I think people should embrace them like that. That's one thing I think creatives should realize, that the power of their emotions, and as well as that being vulnerable it's an asset. It means like doing things with intention. It makes you more authentic, and then it resonates with people a bit more.
Preach.
Yeah,
I
that's it.
love that.
You won't break my soul.
You will not break my soul. Thank you, Beyonce.
Thank you,
you,
Beyonce.
And
Beyonce.
I'm about to have these pro puffs because I've been
Same.
trying to snack all episodes.
All episode
I've been trying
long.
to eat the true ones,
Yeah.
and they're so noisy. And I'm like,
Fawaz, do you
oh.
want-
Episode long. Yes, I do actually.
Which one
all
would you
episode,
like?
كيفكم?
One of
Let
each?
me know. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode,
Like, comment, subscribe, listen to the Beyonce albums back to back, all of them. Let's go. Otherwise, Fawaz will come and scream Beyonce down your house.
which one did you get?
I got the chili lemon.
Oh, chili lemon was my favorite until spicy pizza.
Chili lemon was my favorite until the salt and vinegar ones. Now, now I'm obsessed with the true. I love the
True are
crinkle.
so good for sure. All right, you guys, we are going to enjoy our puffs and chips, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Bye.
Oh. Flops.
Hang it in. You won't break my soul. Wait. Should I try and mix these two flavors? Oh my God, this is my favorite thing to do. Wait.